beautiful people. How's it all going? Hope you're all doing amazingly well. Just before I get into this video, I just wanted to say that obviously I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not in that field at all, even though it's a field that I feel like I would love to be in. I feel like that this is a platform that I want to be able to express these mental health difficulties that a lot of people go through, a lot of people find really difficult to deal with on a daily basis. I know a lot of us go through it, but I just don't think it's normalised, and I feel like where I do these videos, I want to share my platform with as many people as possible, really get the word out there that it is normal to talk about these things. Like, these are things that people experience every single day, and it's something to not be ashamed of. It's something to all come together towards and really just have that community where you feel comfortable talking about these things, where it's safe to talk about these things, and have that knowledge that you're not on your own, that there are people out there that are going through the same situations as you. This is what my platform's all about, and you guys seem to really enjoy when I do these lengthy let's talk videos. This is a topic I know a lot about, and yeah, without further ado, let's talk social anxiety. So if you're unfamiliar with social anxiety, another name or term you could call it is social phobia. So it's basically where you're very anxious and very overwhelmed when it comes to social situations. You find them difficult, really hard to get through, you overthink, you worry. And I think sometimes people mistake it for shyness, which is easily done. They don't really want to talk to people, or they get a bit embarrassed, or social situations kind of makes them feel like they're put on the spot kind of thing, they're in the spotlight. But with social anxiety, there's a bit more to it than that, to the point where it affects your daily life. It affects you doing your normal daily activities. It affects them, whether that's work, your relationships with family, or going to family events, or when you're going out with your friends and you're in like a social background. There's a lot that comes with it in terms of a lot more physical symptoms as well as internal. It's different for every person. I will really emphasize that. Mental health is individual to each person. Yes, somebody might have similar symptoms to somebody else, but somebody else might experience those symptoms differently to what somebody else does. I mean, looking back on it now, when I was younger, I was always somebody that was quite anxious, especially if I was separated from my mum, because I built such a close bond with my mum. Anytime she'd try and drop me off at preschool, or I'd be going to even to school, something that I went to every single day, if I was separated from her, it made me feel really anxious, and I just didn't want to be there. And obviously there were times going on in primary school and secondary school where I was getting bullied in that, which is in my other video. It just put me on edge a lot, and I feel like that even though I was classed as shy back then, I was quite an anxious child. Like, being separated from people that I was really close to really put me on edge. That's why I attempted to try and have as many days off school as I could just to be at home, because if I knew my mum was at home, that was my safe place, that's where I wanted to be. So therefore I'd pretend to be ill so that I could go home. Looking back on it now, it doesn't seem like, you know, that's much. Like, it kind of seems like, well, that's what kids do, they want to skive off school kind of thing. But I just felt like that I just always wanted to be home, and it was always for that period for a long time. And then when it came to my teenage years, and obviously with my friendship groups, you build more outside of your social circle and you meet a lot more people. Again, I was very afraid to talk to people. I didn't know how to make conversation. I was always scared to make conversation. If I tried, I'd feel like that I was just embarrassed, and therefore I'd go red, and it just wasn't worth putting myself through that. I just felt like people would judge, especially in secondary school. People are quite awful in that sector of things, and it did put me on edge a lot. I think that was one of the reasons why bullies targeted me, because I didn't really fight back, or I didn't feel like that I could fight back because of the implications of how I was feeling at the time. It just allowed me to be an easy target, and therefore if this person is quiet, not going to say anything, won't stand up for herself, then of course we're going to target her. It kind of starts for around teenage years as well, social anxiety. You kind of feel a bit more magnified to people. You feel like that people are judging you, people are always looking at you, wondering what you're doing, they're criticizing you, they're judging you for what you look like or how you're being as yourself. I think because of the things that happened in my teenage years, it really impacted me to the point where when I left school, I didn't really know who I was. I felt like the person that I thought I was, people didn't like. So then that made me think, okay, so what do I need to do to be liked, kind of thing? What do I need to do to stop that judgment and criticism and to fit in with everybody else, which is really sad. But I think, again, even in this day and age, like, a lot of people worry about what people think, and I think that's normal to an extent, but to be overthinking it and worrying about it in your head constantly every day, it's such a headache. It really is. From education to going to work, I was always worried about trying to do everything right all the time. I couldn't do anything wrong, because as soon as I do something wrong, somebody would probably look at me and think, who is this person to get this thing wrong? She shouldn't be doing that. And that was the talk going on in my head, even though that wasn't really the reality. That's what I felt, and I just felt really embarrassed and really over the top overthinking and worrying if I did get something wrong, because then I'd just be thinking about that situation over and over again in my head, and it just really affected me to the point where meeting new people and trying to do things right all the time and trying to be this perfect person, perfect version of myself, when it didn't seem to work that day or that week or whenever, I really felt it. And I'm somebody that I put a lot of pressure on myself. Nobody else puts this pressure on me but me. I always feel like that I have to be the best version of myself as many times as I can be every single day. And when I don't feel like that, whether that be when I didn't do an assignment perfectly, when I did my uni work, or when I go to pole and I don't do the moves correctly, I really have a horrible talk with myself and I'm just awful. I'm just thinking, you didn't do that, why didn't you do that, what is wrong with you, you're a mess, and having like negative self-talk, which is never nice. But again, social anxiety has that impact on you where you feel like you're being judged by others. And even though I know probably 9 times out of 10 people aren't worrying about what I'm doing, it just makes me feel like that's the case. And there have been times when I have felt socially anxious to the point where it has erupted a lot of physical symptoms. And before I get into the physical symptoms part, there's that thing of, it takes me a while to get to know people because I don't trust people fully when I'm getting to know them until like it's been a period of time and I felt like we've built like a safe, secure relationship. I don't tend to really open up. I've always just been scared of what people's reactions are towards me. And as I've got older, and especially this year, it's relaxed a bit more. But at the time, I just felt I couldn't be myself. I couldn't talk about myself. I couldn't be open about how I was feeling, who I was, because there was the fear of being judged. There was the fear of people belittling me and making me feel awful about myself. Because it's happened before, I just felt like it was just going to be a recurring thing all the time. A few physical symptoms that happen with social anxiety. So it's things like sweating, blushing, your heart might start beating more rapidly, you might feel your breathing go a bit hollower and like trying to really gasp for air, and it can get to the point where you do have panic attacks. And that's, as I think of it, panic attacks, it's your body's way of telling you it can't cope anymore with all the emotions that you're hiding. It's starting to affect yourself physically, so therefore it needs to do its thing to be able to calm itself down. And it happens for different reasons for different people in different situations. Sometimes for people it's nearly an everyday thing, sometimes it's once in a while, maybe not that often, but it has happened previously. I mean, I've had a few situations where I have had panic attacks. The first one I remember was when I went to uni the first time round. I think because I had a lot of stuff built up going on, and we watched this video clip in our lecture and it brought up a lot of stuff from previously, including one of my relatives passing away, and all of a sudden this girl next to me started crying and I just felt myself having this feeling and I just couldn't control it anymore. And all of a sudden I was breathing really heavily, I just started crying my eyes out, and that was it. I was just trying to catch my breath, I was trying to calm down, but I just couldn't because all these feelings were going everywhere. I just couldn't stop, and it took me about 20 minutes to fully calm down, which is normally average how a panic attack lasts. And there was a time when I went to uni in my first year, and again, don't really know what brought it on, but kind of similar situation before where you had those feelings going on, and all of a sudden I just started breathing really deeply, and then it was getting faster. I found myself feeling like I couldn't catch my breath, I was not able to take in enough, so it was made me panic more, and then it would just get to the point where I was like hyperventilating, and in the end I had to go home, and it took me me to like be in bed and fully relaxed to be able to be okay. But at the time I didn't really know that they were panic attacks. I know the second time it happened I thought it was because I wasn't feeling very well and this is just another symptom of this illness bug that I caught, and that was the reason why I was feeling the way I was feeling. But after talking to a couple of people about it, they were saying it sounded like panic attacks. And then there was a time when I stopped myself from getting one, and that was last year. I went to a friend's wedding reception. I knew people there, but then at the same time a lot of the people there were like her family and the person that she'd married's family, and I just felt like I was getting looked at, like even like by people I knew. I felt like that they were judging and I just couldn't be myself, or I felt like that they didn't like me for some reason, and I just felt all these negative feelings towards myself that they were thinking, but really there was no evidence there to suggest that was even going on. And I just felt it to the point where I was getting tension. So now I get tension in my shoulders, I get pain in my head, and I just feel like that I'm about to blow kind of thing. So I kind of know now if I do start to get a panic attacks, I kind of recognize the symptoms, but since then it's not happened, which is really good. In terms of being socially anxious, I have been to cognitive behavioural therapy. If you're not familiar with that, people sometimes refer to it as CBT, where you see a professional and they give you strategies to help you when you're in those situations. And at the time it felt like, yeah, this is really helping, but since then I felt like that I haven't needed to use those strategies because those strategies don't really work for me. Because I'm not socially anxious very often, I find that they're just techniques that just don't necessarily work for me. I've kind of had to find my own pathway of what helps me and benefits me and makes me feel good when I'm in those situations. And even now, sometimes, like even in environments that I've been in, you know, long enough to know people, I still end up feeling like really anxious. I still feel like, what's this person going to say if I bring this up, or what's this person going to say if I say that I like this? I've always been a worrier and an overthinker. Somebody could say like a simple text message or say something, and then I can think, what do they mean by that? Is there something wrong with me? Do they mean to make that comment? And I'll like overthink it and worry about it for hours after the situation's happened, when the person that said the comment or sent the text probably completely forgot about what they said as soon as they'd said it. But for me, it lasts for hours. It's just something that happens. It's something that I can't help, and I try to help, but it's hard sometimes. It's hard to not overthink and worry when you're the type of person that does that. I mean, I'm a lot better now with it, but there'll be times, especially if I've got a lot of things going on, where I will overthink and I will worry. And the problem with worrying is that it doesn't actually solve anything. It just enables you to think about something that might not even be happening at this point in time. It's something that could occur in future, but you just don't know. Therefore, you kind of think, well, it's a bit of a waste of time worrying about it. There are some situations where it just won't affect me at all. I'll be with people in a small group, or I'll be with one person and it won't affect me. I feel at ease and I feel like that I can just talk and make conversation. But then there will be times where I really don't want to speak. I really don't want to say anything. I feel like that I can't say anything for fear of whatever that might be, rejection, judgment, all those things intertwined. And it's really hard because before social anxiety, mental health, anything became more of a discussion to talk about, I felt that there was always something there, like something underlying, but then because people put it down to shyness, or just because you're an awkward person or you're socially awkward kind of thing, it's just my personality. But then there are times when I do feel confident and outgoing and do all these things, so it just didn't make sense. I felt like there was always something there, but I couldn't really talk about it, or I felt like that it was just a bad day and things will be better tomorrow kind of thing. I didn't know it was something that would just keep happening, and it just did keep happening. It was never ending in a sense. There are different types of social anxiety. You could be at one end of the spectrum where you're quite extreme and you find it really hard every single day, or somebody where you only find it every now and again and it's not that much of a problem, you learn to deal with it kind of thing. You could be in the middle where you have days where it's really, really bad, days where it's not so bad. So it's individualized to each person, but there are symptoms that are the same, that are similar to other people, but people deal with it in different ways and have their own coping mechanisms in order to deal with it. I think as well, a lot of anxiety that I have built up, or a lot of the social anxiety that I have, has come from previous situations where I've been in social situations and it's not ended up great. I think that's probably where the main parts have stemmed from, especially in my teenage years and in my early 20s. I just found that there were situations where I'd be in a social situation or at a gathering or in a group, something happened and it just put me on edge when it came to making conversation with people, meeting new people, or trying to make conversation, or thinking to myself, yep, I need to try and do this, that and the other, and then feeling really bad when I couldn't do it because I didn't feel like I could do it, if that makes sense. And in terms of dealing with it now, I'm a lot better when it comes to dealing with it. I was thinking about it the other day and before I did this video, and I really wanted to say, I remember when I just joined a work company a couple of years ago, and it's the same one that I work with now. They'd only known me a few weeks. I wasn't somebody that really came out of my shell, but they were kind enough to invite me to a night out. So I went to that night out, and then somebody was like, oh, you can dance, can't you? Like, why don't you show us? And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just went and danced in the middle of the dance floor, and I just threw some shapes about. They were all just gobsmacked. They were all looking at me like, did not know you were like that, did not know you could do that, which was amazing because I like it when things are like that, because people think one version of you, but actually there's this version of you as well. I've always been somebody that I love performing. I really miss it, I really do, but I used to sing in front of a lot of people. I used to do different events. I obviously danced, I acted, and that ultimately put me in my comfort zone, which you think somebody with social anxiety doesn't quite make sense because they're somebody that they don't like being in the spotlight and they don't like having the center of attention being on them. But when it comes to dancing and things like that, I'm totally at ease. I'm feel the most confident and comfortable ever, ultimately because I know it's something that I love to do, it's something that makes me me, and it's something that I enjoy, and again gives people that thing of, wow, I didn't know she could do that. That really surprised me, you know, kind of give them like the surprise factor, which best things come in small packages, what can I say? I've always been somebody that I've always enjoyed performing, and it's just always put me in my comfort zone, so I really do miss it. That was something that helped with the transition of social anxiety and dealing with things, and I became a Zumba instructor at one point, and even though I was somebody that I didn't make lots of conversation with people at the start of classes, when I was doing the classes I was somebody that got everybody pumped up and wanting to get a good workout for themselves, and I just felt so at ease in that I could do this, and I was leading like a class of like up to 10 people sometimes and having to do all these routines for an hour, and that made me feel amazing, and I just kept doing it. Things like that just really helped me through those times of social anxiety and really helped me build my confidence a bit more and made me find out a bit more of who I was. I've read a couple of really good self-development books recently that I think is really beneficial for people. There's one called Brave New Girl by Chloe Brotheridge, I believe, and The Anxiety Solution. She released that before the book that I just spoke about, so I'll put the pictures up now. But they're really good books. They're really helpful in being able to relate to how you're feeling, because I feel like with social anxiety it's something that people can't describe the feeling. It's not as easy as saying feelings like happy, sad, scared, worried. There's a lot to it, and those books are really helpful. I'm reading The Anxiety Solution now and it's absolutely amazing. I love it. Obviously doing things that you love, finding like your own happy, so when you are in those situations, having things to look forward to, whether that be on the weekend when you get home from work, or things that you can do every single day that you know you love doing and that just makes you happy, not for any other reason but just make you feel happy. Do more of that. It really helps and really makes you feel like you found your purpose. You've got something that will help you in these situations. This one's really hard, but it's something that I know is really beneficial to do, to push yourself out of your comfort zone more, so when you are in those situations, enable yourself to just give it that little bit more of a push. So say for example you're going to a social event, you're really anxious about it, you really don't know what it's going to be like, and you've got all these things going on in your head. Give yourself a couple of hours to attend that situation, see how you go. If you feel like you need to leave, you can leave. If you feel like that you can stay a bit longer, stay a bit longer. Give yourself a strategy in place when you do attend things that you're anxious about, or if it's an everyday thing, give yourself a backup. If I know that I'm going to work one day and I'm feeling really anxious, I'm overthinking, and I know that I really can't do it, I always say to myself, get yourself to lunchtime and see how you feel. You can always go home. Get yourself to lunchtime and see how you feel. If you get to lunchtime, you feel like you can push on, get to the end of your shift or end of your day, however you plan it, see how you feel. Let things be a gradual process rather than something that you have to get straight away. Social anxiety isn't something that just goes away. It's something that you live with for the rest of your life. It's something that can be dealt with. It's something that can be compromised for your benefit to help you live your life as best as you possibly can. This again can be really quite a difficult one as well, and that's really looking at who you hang around with or the activities you do or hobbies you do. If certain people, for example, are making you feel anxious or bad about yourself or make you question who you are kind of thing, consider not being part of that anymore. Really think about if they're toxic to your life, if they're somebody that's not giving you that motivation, that push, that being your best amazing possible version of yourself, then they're not worth being part of your life. And I know that's really hard sometimes, especially if they're people that have been part of your lives for such a long time and have made a happy impact. It can happen where people do drift, or you have a difference in values and morals and how you want to live your life, and that's absolutely fine. I think sometimes people feel like if they've got family members or friends that are really making them feel awful about themselves, because they're a friend or family, they can't get rid of them, they can't not speak to them, they can't not have them as part of their life. But if they're making a negative impact on you and making you question things and making your anxiety and how you approach things worse, then it's something to really think about and really question, is this person make a positive impact in my life? Is this person adding value to what I want to gain out of life? And if that's no, it's something to really consider. It's for your benefit. It's something that will help you in the long run and help you overcome anxiety and help you to deal with it. Be able to walk out of your house and say to yourself, today is going to be good, today is going to be fine. And positive affirmations sometimes can work before you leave the house. If you've got a meeting, for example, that you're really nervous about, you're feeling socially anxious, you've got to talk in front of people, look at yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, I am a worthy person. I am somebody that I can get up in front of those people and I can do this for myself. I am somebody that has been put in this situation because life has shown that I am ready for this. I can do this. If you're really positive and give yourself that extra boost, you will be able to tackle anything that comes your way, and you'll be able to identify those symptoms and think to yourself, okay, this is happening, I need to do this first and then it will settle, do that next and then it will settle. As I kind of think of it, it's a ladder. There's steps that go up to the ultimate top where you think, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming, I can't deal with this. Take the steps back down to get back to the bottom, and your bottom is your comfort zone. So your bottom in this instance is something that gets you back to feeling good about yourself, that gets you back to feeling comfortable and confident and feeling like, yes, this is where I want to be. And that's more for when you're in those situations. Like, don't always stay in your comfort zone, because staying in your comfort zone is obviously lovely, but you won't identify your other strengths and your other things in life that you can obtain if you don't go through your growth zone. And your growth zone is the little things, going to that meeting and facing those people and tackling that. Because once you've obtained that, then you've obtained a strength for yourself. You've told yourself that you can stand up in front of people and make a presentation. Therefore, you've just done something for your growth zone, and that will then fall into your comfort zone, and then you'll think, right, what's next I can do? It's allowing yourself to have that growth time and just giving yourself those little pushes, those little micro bravery obstacles that you're just stepping on each step on the ladder. You're not making that big jump to get to the top. You automatically put yourself off and you think, actually no, I can't do this, I'm not doing this anymore, and you avoid it, which obviously you don't want to do. You don't want to avoid things. You want to try and push through them and try and make the little steps that you need to as possible in order to get to a better place for yourself. And that's what it comes down to. If you're somebody that suffers from this quite badly and it's an everyday occurrence, then it's worth seeing a GP or a medical professional about how you're feeling. They'll be able to analyse you and find the best route in order to help you. It might be a medication drug, it might be seeing a professional for CBT. There's different options out there, but it's important to really be honest about how you're feeling and really honest with how it's affecting your life, because if you're not emphasising it enough, the professional professionals that you're speaking to aren't going to pick up on that, and they're just going to think that it's nothing, it's something that you can deal with by yourself. If you emphasize how much it's really impacting you and making you feel awful about life and being able to just be yourself and be okay with things, then you will get that help and support. I guarantee you will get that help and support. There are times when my social anxiety still affects me every now and again, but I'm quite appreciative that it's something that I know I can tackle, and it's something that I know I can get through and go through and be okay with. It's something that I'm not ashamed of, because I know a lot of people go through it, even if it's like the littlest things compared to the bigger things. It's something that I know that I can tackle, and it's something that I know for myself I can get through and be okay with and be comfortable with. And it's sharing that with other people. I mean, I've done it before where I've shared things with somebody else and they've gone, oh yeah, like I feel exactly the same when this happens. I felt like that before when that happened. Oh my gosh, I feel exactly the same today. And you build that connection and you're able to have that relief, like, thank God, like it's not just me, like other people go through it as well. So don't feel ashamed, don't feel bad, don't feel like that there's this abnormality wrong with you. I think it's better nowadays with mental health that it's become more of a common theme rather than a taboo subject. I know sometimes it's still treated like a taboo subject. Sometimes traumas in life as well can really affect people to the point where they do have anxiety, they do have social anxiety, and it affects their daily lives. And there's all different types. And don't allow yourself to feel like that you're on your own. Don't allow yourself to feel like that you can't do this, or that this is just an abnormal thing that you're just going to have to live with for the rest of your life, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. You're always going to go red in front of people, you're always going to be sweating, you're always going to be allowing yourself to be in those situations and think, yep, I can't do it anymore, and just avoid things, cuddle up with a blanket and watch Netflix or something. You can get through it, and you can be in a place where you feel comfortable and happy and ready to take on the world. I think the more people hear about this, the better people will understand, and the more people will be able to relate to it. So if you know somebody that is struggling with social anxiety or kind of anxiety, please hold to them, because this could be really beneficial to them and really comfort them and make them feel like they're not alone. Thank you for watching, really appreciate it. Do all the things that you're meant to do, comment down below, subscribe, all the things that you know that you need to do. That's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you again very soon. Take care.